2006, Devil Wears Prada. Are you so confident in your abilities that when you're cast with Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway, does that intimidate you at all, or you just don't care?
No, I was very intimidated. I remember the table read with Meryl, and we were all just quaking.
The table read comes after you're hired, right?
Comes after you're hired, and you do a table read where you just read through the script.
You've said in that movie you play kind of a woman that you don't like, that you would not like to hang out with. And you said,
I don't think anyone would want to hang out with her.
Right, and in order to prepare, you went around and you found really horrible people to emulate, right? Where do you find horrible people?
I like to soak up people on the street and people I meet. And
what do you mean soak up people on the street?
Well, you just I guess I steal from people I meet, and you steal from, like I saw a mother speaking to her child in a supermarket when we were shooting that film. And it's a line that gets quoted back to me now, where she yelled at her kid in a supermarket, and she kind of went like this with her hand.
Like she's working a puppet.
And she goes, yeah, I'm hearing this, and I want to hear this.
Right.
And I put it in the movie. Yeah, I'm hearing this, and I want to hear this.
Is that the secret to being a great actress, that you must observe what people do and then mimic it?
Part of me sometimes feels that I think that does go into it. For me, that's what helps me, is to kind of feel what other people would feel like in my skin, and that's the trick.
That makes sense to me.
And other times, I think it's about the ultimate expression of empathy. You have to be so interested in people and empathize with them profoundly.
Can you easily get rid of your act? Like if I said to you, be a typical American right now, could you easily get rid of it?
It's not that easy for me.
How do you do? What do you have to do? You have to go into a mindset? Are you being a mimic again?
You just mimic. An accent, yeah.
Who do you mimic? Who do you think of when you? If I said to you right now, here's a part. I want you to be.
Say this in American.
Be an American. Would you go to a northeastern kind of thing, a southern thing? Where would you go first?
I think Brits always say it's like a standard American accent, which is probably insulting because I think accents are very different in America.
Is the standard accent a Midwestern accent?
No, it's like a very. Oh, God. I don't even know what it is.
How do you do it? If I had to play a British person.
Your accent is not a standard American accent. That's not what we're taught as a standard American accent.
I'm like a New Yorker.
You're a New Yorker.
I have a New York accent.
But do you know, New York accents are really hard for Brits. Whereas a Southern accent is easier. For some reason, the rhythms and the timbre of it is like much easier.
When you would audition for a movie like Devil Wears Prada, but you played a British person there, so that's right. That's easy.
But I said, do you want me to do it American? I said I'd prefer to play her British because I think there's a sort of superiority that works with the
arrogance.
An arrogance,
yes. And it worked.
Yeah, an imperious quality.
But when you go in to see Tom Cruise and you're thinking and he wants you to play American.
But he didn't. I mean, most people, I think people really like the British accent, and so I'm sort of being embraced in that way. That I have done both, but
do you enjoy playing an American?
I do enjoy it if it helps me sort of go in a different direction with a character, if it helps kind of trigger a different sort of chameleon thing. But there's something that is not quite as liberating for me if you're having to do an accent. When
you were shooting Sicario, I understand you got sick during the shooting.
I did, yeah.
You got what they call Montezuma's Revenge.
Oh, big time.
Do they stop filming, or the show must go on?
It actually worked for the film because I was supposed to look sweaty and terrified because we were seeing bodies hanging from a bridge. So they were like, let's do it.
That's a heavy scene, right? To shoot. You got to really look authentic in that one. You walk in and a cartel has already just wiped out all these people, and you smell them, and they're dead. There's dead carcasses there.
Yeah.
And you're someone who has never been traumatized like that before.
Not to that extent. I mean, she's tactically really highly skilled at being an FBI agent, but I think what she's exposed to in the war on drugs is just a whole other level.
Does the director say to you, listen, this is the setup, you got to be really sickened here, go. That's how it works?
And my whole thing, we're really trying to find the reality of the situation. I just think when people are really scared and really grossed out, they submarine it. Like, people just have this rather shocked expression.
So in other words, the trick is most amateurs would be like, oh, it smells in here.
Yeah.
Like you've got to, because you're a tough FBI woman.
Yeah.
You've got to act stoic.
She's trying to save face throughout the whole film.
So it's a subtle move on camera.
I think the camera sees everything. I've really learnt over the years that it really sees everything. So
is acting all in the eyes?
You don't have to do as much as you
just have to feel it. Just feel it out.
Now, here's what fascinates me. So you're a little kid growing up, and you're a stutterer, and a bad one. I mean, you have it bad. And some teacher notices that when you act in school plays or whatever it is you're doing, and you become a character, that you don't stutter that much. What happens when you become a character? Because people who sing say this. I stutter, but when I sing, it disappears.
I think it's a sort of removal of yourself from yourself type thing. And I used to really enjoy speaking in stupid voices, and I loved accents as a kid because it was a way for me to speak fluently. And this teacher that you just spoke about picked up on that, and he said, "You want to be in the class play?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, please, I think you should. I think you'd be great." He said, "I've heard you do your bits with your friends and do impersonations." He said, "I've heard you do me. I've heard you do a bunch of people. Why don't you just do it in a silly voice?" Which is amazing that he had that kind of insight as someone who isn't a stutterer.
And most teachers don't pay attention on that level.
No.
The fact that he really zeroed in on you is really good.
Yeah, Mr. McHale.
Now here, Mr. McHale.
Mr. McHale.
I got to hail him because you know what? That's pretty good. Most teachers ignored me. No matter what I did, they had no cure for it.
Nobody saw anything.
No one saw a thing in me.